Hey guys, believe me when I say that this is not an easy video to make. I love MyHeritage for the family tree feature. Excellent. I don't think any of the other companies come close to it. But I think there's a problem. There is a problem with this admixture estimates. And I'm going to tell you why. We're going to assess the evidence. And I believe that it could possibly be a case of racial bias. Hear me out, please. So, the second DNA test that I took, the first was with a company. I never remember its name, and that's a whole other story. In fact, I did do a little YouTube video on that years ago, probably about 15 years ago when I first had it done. But this was my second, and this was with 23andMe. And of course, isn't exactly how it looked when I first did 23andMe, because of course, as they update the algorithms, we see that they tweak a little bit more so it gets more accurate as the technology improves and the various samples with which they compare my DNA. And so this is what we have. Sub-Saharan African, they say about 88.5%. And of course, now they're able to narrow it down. So I know that I'm mostly Igbo. And I've connected with a few Igbo relatives. And so that's been verified time and time again. And also my European roots over here, about 11.5, according to 23andMe. And again, what I see here kind of comports to family history, what we know about family history. So, other companies that have my DNA, Family Tree, Living DNA, and Ancestry. And Living DNA, not sure exactly how good their algorithms are, but we do know that close to what I got 23andMe, about 90.5% African, about 9.5% European. And Living DNA, not a huge company, doesn't have a huge database either, but you can see pretty much in the ballpark, 88% and 12% here, even though if you see what they do over here, they say 6% in Western Europe and 6% Middle East and North Africa, which in itself is interesting. But we're not going to get too deeply into that. This is Ancestry, and those who use Ancestry, that Ancestry also every 6 months or so, they would do their updates. And you can see over here, West Africa, the major ethnic category over here, or at least geographical category. And over here we have the European. And again, the balance here is about 11-12% to 88 to 88. And so you see that the balances are pretty much there when you look at 23andMe, Family Tree DNA, Living DNA, and Ancestry. And so I did my DNA also in MyHeritage, and I believe I did the transfer, and I also did the tests from scratch. And here we go. This was the version that reflects something similar to what I got when I first uploaded my data to MyHeritage, And with MyHeritage, you see it has me probably about 93% African, Sub-Saharan African, and just a little less than 8% European. Okay, so that's version 0.95. Now, the reason why this becomes an issue is that their latest update, they went from version 0.95 to version 2.5. And take a close look at the breakdown over here and look at 2.5. This literally is it. Okay, no breakdown, nothing. 2.5. Okay, so we've gone from this to this. All right. So 95.7% Nigerian, 2.9% Portuguese, 1.4% Egyptian. I called them and said, what in the world is going on here? This does not reflect what I know about my family tree, about my family history. And, you know, the regular answer was, well, you know, as algorithms change, we get more accurate. I said, this is not accurate at all. This is just messed up. But listen, this is just the tip of the iceberg, because I don't only have my account, and I'm not only managing my account on MyHeritage, but there are other family members. So here's my brother, for instance, and when we look at the breakdown for my brother, this is 0.95, and again, you see the Nigerian, Kenya, West Africa side, all 9, European, and if you notice something as it relates to mine, for instance, it's got me at 7.7% Europe, and of course, it adds up me about 12%, and my brother's is more in that like 12 to 14, 15% range over here. And also shows up again something else that we know about our history, and that's to do with the Ashkenazi Jewish marker. And I'm going to do another presentation on that Jewish marker, the Ashkenazi marker, I should say, because I prefer to use the word Ashkenaz rather than Jewish, to tell the truth, but for that marker over there. So this is what my brother was showing. And so you can see probably, let me see, about 86, 87% African, about 13, 40% European. But check this out. This is what his 2.5 says. This is what his 2.5 says. It didn't just stop there. Again, there are others. My sister, she agreed to take the test too. And again, this was her 0.95. And again, you look at the various estimates over here. See about 12% European, about 88% African. But check this out. This is how they have her on the 2.5. You see what I'm seeing? Okay. So fortunately, before my mother passed in 2021, she agreed to take a test, and here we go. This is her breakdown over here, which in itself was a little questionable because of what I knew about her background, but it was still pretty much, you know, it wasn't as inaccurate as it could have been. Let me just put it like that. And so this was my mother with 0.95, but check this out, 2.5. Huh. Do you see a pattern here? Nigerian, Portuguese, Egyptian. What's going on? And of course, my mother, you know, she also tested in 23andMe. And so we see the better breakdown over here, 84% sub-Saharan, 15.6% European. My father had my father tested too. This was a 0.95. And again, you have these different geographical areas. Here's 2.5. Oh, there goes Portuguese again. Don't know why. But my father had also tested on 23andMe, and here is 23andMe readings. And so you see a sub-Saharan Africa. He does have a great deal, almost 95%. Sub-Saharan Africa, about 5% European. So this is his, but again, we see what they did to him. How about my uncle? My uncle, again, this was his breakdown with 0.95. Which, you know, comports to kind of what we know, because he should be very similar to my mother, about 15 to 20% European, and, 80 to 85% African. And we see that represented here, but check this out. Again, Nigerian, Portuguese, and Egyptian. So again, just totally messed up, version 2.5. Right. And of course, he also tested with 23andMe, and we see the breakdown here. We see the breakdown here. But there's more. There's my great uncle. And he was the half cousin to my grandfather. And this breakdown is, you know, pretty close. And so you see he's about 82% or so African, 18% European, on version 0.95. Okay, you already know what you're going to expect with 2.5. There we go. Portugal's popping up right there again, and that Nigeria is taking the lion's share. Gets exhausting, doesn't it? Now, I have a brother-in-law. Actually, a couple of brother-in-laws agreed to this, and one of my brothers-in-law, this was his initial result over here. And you see the breakdown there with the African and then South Asian and Baltic. But check this out again. Yep, this was the update over here. Has him like 100% African over here. And yeah, that's just it. And why this really concerns me is because, because I've been using MyHeritage for years, and again, I love their family tree feature, the wonderful charts and stuff that you can print out. It's wonderful in that area. But my goodness, I've been talking to them more than once about fixing the algorithm so that we can have accurate admixture readings. And why this is important is because for those of us who do genealogy, we know sometimes we're going to really convince family members to do this. A lot of them don't trust the science, etc. And this is not good advertising if it doesn't work. And so I talked 2 more brothers-in-law into doing it. And this is, after the release of 2.5. And I was thinking, hey, maybe they'll have it work this time. Maybe because it's fresh and 2.5 is out there and, new sample, new technology, whatever you, but no. I can't even talk to them about this because I know it does not reflect what I know about their family. It does not reflect. It just does not reflect. And so, again, this whole thing about Nigerian and Portuguese, and again, I'm Nigerian, I'm Igbo, all right? I'm Igbo, but it's just, kind of being gratuitous. And so what's happening here? Well, I'm thinking as I look at these findings over here, and there are 5 basic findings. Number 1, we see that collapse of the African diversity, right? And so we see version 2.5 just absorbs everything, whether in the previous ones was Kenyan, Somalia, Sierra Leone, Central Africa, whatever it is, just puts it all, everywhere is Nigeria, all right? And this is, whoever's doing this is just lazy. It's wrong. It's wrong. Number 2, we look at the European admixture, very suppressed. And of course, when I look at different websites talking about genetic findings, what have you, I don't see this with other geographical groups or racialized groups, etc. But we see it almost as if, okay, if you see African here, then collapse all of the European into one. And so we've lost so much. Okay. And then, as it relates to the third, look at distinctive signals. And so, for instance, in version 0.95, they were able to detect certain things, like apparently my great uncle may have had a little bit of a Native American, or in this case, it would have been Taino in him. My mother, and I knew even before the test that we had some Ashkenazi roots there. It did assign finish to my uncle. I'm not sure if that was accurate. We're talking about MyHeritage here. But again, all of these little nuances have completely disappeared. And so what we're seeing here, and this is my 4th finding over here, is that this is systematic. It's not anomalous. If it happened once, we can say it's an anomaly, but it's systematic. All right. When we look at those independently tested family members where we had it before and after, where we had other tests done in other companies that we could do a real comparison in real time, it is systemic. It is not anomalous. It is not anomalous. There is an issue with the algorithm that needs to be fixed. I know they had this wonderful sale, and I must admit I bought a few kits in their sale because $20 for the I bought a few kits in that sale, and I'm just kind of holding on to them, hoping that they're going to get this fixed, because again, if I ask someone to do the test, they're going to know what their results are. And I'm going to feel bad, even though it's not my company, that I've asked them to do something, and at least at this point they're not able to get an accurate reading. And so again, it's a systemic issue. All right. And we've seen that again. It's been validated by looking at it across platforms. And we know that version 2.5 in MyHeritage is that consistent outlier. They're consistent outlier. That is the problem. My advice to MyHeritage would be just go back to 0.95. Just go back to 0.95. Do away with 2.5, go back to 0.95, and don't do the new release until you know it's something that works. Okay? So in conclusion, then, we've shown you, we've demonstrated undoubtedly that MyHeritage systematically over-consolidates African ancestry into Nigerian while suppressing European admixture, and it's a pattern disproportionately affecting people of West African Caribbean descent. And it's been reported again more than once without resolution. And I have to ask a question: Is this a case of racial bias? MyHeritage, please listen and do something. Thank you. Peace.